Hi everyone, it's Marie at LivingFelt, and in this tutorial we are going to wet felt these beautiful heart danglers. I love this project because these twirlers are so beautiful. You can hang them in a room, in a window, or even outside and let the wind spin them around. They are charming, they are sweet, they're great for a kid's room or any place where you just want to add an extra bit of love and whimsy. This is a very beginner-friendly wet felting project and would be great fun to do with kids as well. We are going to be working with prefelt, which will help us get off to a great start in making our delightful hanging hearts. And the fun is going to be adding all of the design work and the whimsical tails and beads to hang them with. The fiber for this project will be built on a prefelt base. I've chosen our PFM prefelt in white, but you could also use our PFL. We'll be adding lovely 19.5 micron merino tops, adding some luster with our embellishment fibers in bamboo, viscose, and tussa, and some textures with neps, hankies, and some sari silk waste, whatever else you would like to add. To hang our beautiful hearts and have them twirl, I like to use a collection of beads. Some I get from discarded necklaces from the thrift store or old jewelry, number 10 cotton thread or whatever you like for hanging, and a needle that will hold your thread and fit through your beads. For the last part, you'll want a little circle ring. This is about 3/4 inches. Grab the PDF and cut out the heart pattern. Then use the heart pattern to cut out 2 pieces of prefelt in the same shape. Stack your hearts on top of each other. The prefelt forms a really solid base layer for our project and will make sure that we have a nice even base. We're going to decorate the face with merino top and merino silk blends. I like to follow the shape of the heart and cover the entire side A with merino top and merino silk blends. Just have fun placing your fibers, enjoy the interplay of the stripes or striations in the merino silk blends, and you can even cloud little bits of fiber where you want to fill in. Just go for a nice even layer of merino tops and merino silk blends. We add luster, sheen, and texture with our design layer as well. With these little hearts, really anything goes. Again, I like to kind of follow the shape of the heart with some of the design elements. So have fun with those design elements. Sometimes you can make the fibers nice and orderly, and other times you can just cloud them off and let them get squiggly on the face of your heart. Most of the colors I'm using are from our February box, and I thought they would be fun to include in this project. Once you're happy with that initial design layer on side A, it's time to make our tail. I like to use the same colors that I've used on side A, and we're going to make the tail a little bit long, so stretch the fibers out. I'm making 2 piles, but we're going to roll them together in just a moment, and this separation is going to make a lot of sense. Just follow the same design colors and make a tail that's about 6 inches or longer, however you prefer. Now group all those fibers together, and holding your hand at the top, we are going to start to combine the layers. Use the bubble wrap as a work surface, and with very gentle pressure and your hands going parallel to the fiber, start to coax them together into a conical shape or a cane. Gradually increasing pressure is really the key here. We want all of these fibers to blend, but we want them to also stay in their nice, pretty, stripy nature. The top of the bundle, we are not going to twist, so avoid the top 2 to 3 inches in this process. After the initial shaping of your tail is done, you can protect the top with a piece of plastic or bubble wrap because we are going to wet felt the rest of the tail and get it fairly firm before attaching it to our heart. Bring in your soap and water, and using the same rolling action, start to felt your tail into this nice long shape. You're going to find it helpful for your hands to be parallel instead of perpendicular until that tail is better formed. Putting your hands this way and using gentle pressure will ensure that you don't flatten the tail. If it feels too mushy, take a little bit of the water away and continue felting and rolling this piece until it gets nice and firm. Gradually increase your pressure and roll the piece between your hands until you have what feels like a nice, dense cane or snake. Remember to keep the top fibers dry. Sometimes I like to use the bubble wrap to roll it in, and you'll notice that I'm just using the edge of my thumb or the palm of my hand to add pressure. If the end gets a little messy or stringy, just snip it off and continue felting. The tail is really going to be felted all the way before we attach it to the heart, except for the part that we've left dry. To attach our tail to our heart, we'll peel back the very bottom edge of our heart and tuck half of our tail onto side A, and the other half will sandwich around to side B. Lay the fibers back down and then pull off any excess so that they all just kind of taper and meld together. Now it's time to wet side A. We are going to felt it very, very lightly, so add soap and water. Press all of the water and soap in and air out. Be gentle, but wet it thoroughly. Be mindful of where the tail joins the bottom of the heart. We're going to constantly tend to this area so that we don't make the tail flat where it comes right off the heart. Once side A is fully wet, peel back your mesh, and we're going to add a second layer of plastic on top. Flip your heart over, and we are going to wrap all of the trailing fibers over onto side B. Prefelt is very delicate at this stage, so be mindful not to misshape the heart that you've cut out, and pay extra attention to the tail right at the bottom of the heart. Now repeat your design layout on side B. It doesn't have to match exactly. You can follow the same general theme of the fibers that you wrapped around. With our layout complete, it's time to wet felt side B. Wet and soap this entire side with your mesh. Once it's wet and you're satisfied that everything is in place, we are going to coax all of our trailing fibers back onto the body of our heart. We begin felting. I like to felt along the perimeter of the heart and where the heart meets the tail first. This project has a little bit of thickness to it, and we want to keep that. We don't want to smash the heart out to paper thinness at the edges, so constantly rub your fingers along where the tail of the heart and the heart join and all around the perimeter of the heart. We replace our mesh with our plastic, and that will help hold everything in place. Remember to add soap and water outside of your plastic so that your hands glide nicely. As you go through the initial stages of felting by rubbing with your hands, be gentle. We'll increase our pressure over time. In the very initial phases, you're just going to want to make sure that you get all of that fiber nice and flush against the shape of the heart. Pay special attention to that area where the heart meets the tail and keep it shaped so that it has dimension. I'm always rubbing from the outside of the heart towards the center and pushing my hand up against the edges of that shape so that it stays dimensional versus getting very flat. We want to get all of the fibers melding together and interlocking. but it's still very delicate, so hand rubbing is a very important part of the process. You're going to rub each side of the heart approximately 5 minutes or until you can start to feel that everything is in its place and there are no more trailing fibers. You could rub this entire project by hand, but we're going to form a really nice felt by using a tool such as our dowel. Notice that we want to place our dowel only within the body of the heart and not on top of the tail because we don't want to smash it. We're rolling very gently in the beginning. We're not using pressure. Really, we're using a rock and roll action. And I'm showing you here just so you can see my hands are really only on the body of the heart. It's going to be easier to wrap your project in the towel, and this part is just for demonstration. Rock and roll about 50 times initially and then flip it over to side B, repeating the same process. So we've rolled from side to side on side A, we've rolled from both sides on side B, and now we'll roll from top down. Again, we're going to stop at the tail. You'll notice that all throughout the project, I'm going to hand rub in the middle and I'm going to, again, work the area where the tail joins the heart. We can feel that our fibers are starting to migrate together, but the heart is still very delicate. We have more felting to do, but we can replace some of our plastic, and this will allow the fibers to move and shift a little more as we agitate. Continue the rolling process with your dowel and increasing your pressure until your heart feels like it's starting to get dense and form a nice felt fabric. If you want your heart to be more elongated, do your rolling side to side from each side edge on side A and side B before repeating rolling your heart from the top down. This will help your heart be a little bit longer. If you prefer your heart to be a little bit shorter, then you can roll from the top down. Pause, go back and felt your tail a little bit more where it joins the heart and continue working your heart until it starts to feel like it's really firming up and becoming dense. I like to keep the plastic in place until it really feels like the fibers are migrating together because the fibers may tend to want to stick to the wood. But once you can feel that the fibers are no longer shifting and you're starting to feel a nice thick fabric, you can put the wood right onto the heart. You can also just roll the heart by itself. And you would only want to do this if all the fibers are really staying in place and not moving under your touch. This is called the fulling stage. Once we have a pretty good felt forming, then what we want to do is continue agitation with increased pressure to get the fibers to further shrink or get closer together. This is how we form a nice, dense felt. The crinkling is really quite normal, and you'll notice that it always crinkles on the side that you've rolled it in on itself. As long as you're treating each side with the same agitation, these will all work themselves out in the end. You can tell that your heart is finished or that you've made a good felt when it passes a pinch test, and that means you pinch it and it all comes up as one fabric. That doesn't feel like there are multiple layers shifting between your fingers, and everything is staying together. If your heart is a little wonky and you don't love that, then you can do spot fulling or just roll that one part and give it some additional agitation. If rubbing the fabric between your fingers feels like there are multiple layers versus one layer of thick fabric, then keep fulling or felting until you have a nice solid piece of felt. All of our design elements are in place and staying where we want them, so now we're going to rinse. Rinse out all of the soap until the water runs clear, and then we're going to submerge our heart into a bath of water and vinegar. We have mostly water in this bowl and then just a splash of vinegar. This will allow the fiber to come back to its natural pH, which will mean it's at its natural softness and natural sheen because it helps break down all of the soap and close up the scales. Let it soak for about 15 minutes and then squeeze out all of the liquid. Then we'll roll our heart in a towel to remove any additional moisture. You can sit your heart to dry overnight, and I like to twirl the tail around a paintbrush or a dowel and let it sit so that it has a nice, sweet curve. Our hearts are all finished and we love how they look, so it's time to string them up and get them ready for display. I like to lay out my beads in the order I want them, so putting it together is really fast. Choose a needle that will pass through all of your beads. Thread your needle and run it through the top of your heart where the dip is, about a ½ inch from that dip. Then run the other end of your thread through the eye of the needle. Now your needle is double threaded. Pass these double threads through each bead along the strand. When you get to the end, add your ring and tie a double knot so that it's nice and strong. Then the only thing left to do is to hang your hearts and appreciate their beauty and magic. After you've made one or two of these, don't be surprised if you want to start experimenting any colors. These hearts look delightful, so this one is very beachy. And I also like to add in some fun yarns. This is a very loosely spun yarn, and these yarns are sort of hide and seek, playing a little game. You can add beadwork, stitching, and art yarns, just anything your heart desires. We hope you've had fun with this project, and if you decide to make one, we hope you'll share it with us in our group, LivingFelt Friends on Facebook. If you would like more beginner wet felting projects or wet felting with pre-felt, check out this video right here or follow the playlist down below.